Welcome to another edition of Music Theory 101. On this video, we're going to learn how to play the guitarron, the names of the notes on the instrument, proper jalon technique, and how to wear the strap over your shoulder and over your back. So now the first thing that we need to know when playing the guitarron is the names of the strings. We have a video that already covers that, but I'm going to cover it very briefly. We have the Guitarron 101 video that you can link to below, or at the end of the video, we will probably have a link to that as well. First, you need to remember that the names of the strings on the guitarron are numbered from the treble to the bass. So we start with string number 1, 2, string number 3, 4, 5, and 6. The name of the strings are A or La, E or Mi, C or Do, G or Sol, D or Re for the fifth one, and A or La again. The strings match a guitar. If you were to do a bar chord on the 5th fret, it would be the same names as we have on the strings on the guitarron. The first thing that we're going to learn when playing the guitarron is going to be how to hold it correctly. Right now, to demonstrate, I'm going to do the strap over the shoulder because that's more comfortable for me. You can also do it over your neck or over your back, which is also very common. With thin straps, I really like, just a personal preference, is to have the over the shoulder. So I put it over the shoulder like this. I always make sure that this curb is at about my solar plexus, which is right here. That curb, I always place it about right there, which aligns the guitarron with, as I had mentioned earlier, this to my shoulder and this to about my eyebrows. So again, this is a position. So I grab my guitarron like this. So this is a position for the guitarron. One thing that you can practice at home is making sure you have that position. Your guitarron should never be flat like this, or should never be like a table. Never, ever, ever play it like that. That's going to lead to a lot of problems when it comes to posture, and that could end up being very painful. After having learned how to put on the guitarron in the correct position, we are going to make sure that we are grabbing it correctly. One easy way to get a good position on your left hand is to just get your hand like this, like if you were doing this, put it right about where the cejilla is, or the nut, move it to the first dot, if you guys can see. That's usually where I grab my guitarron from, and that's going to give me a very comfortable position that will be very versatile, and it will allow me to play the notes very naturally. Once you do that, the next thing you do, you get your hand in an L position, you put it on the G string. I always, just out of habit, point my fingers slightly down, just so my hand is in a more comfortable jalon position. Remember, the jalon is never outwards. You're never gonna do the jalon in that direction. You're never gonna do it up either. That's gonna be very uncomfortable. You hook in and you pull slightly up towards you, and then you can add a little bit of arm, shoulder. Different guitarron players have different techniques or different ways of teaching this, but this is how I usually teach it, and this is what I find the most comfortable for me personally. We can play the sol by adding this finger right here, but I personally don't like to do that. Most guitarron players, or most professional guitarron players that I know, play it just with the open G. The highest one makes it a little bit too high pitched, so I will not be teaching that one right now, maybe a little bit later. So right now we start with the sol, which is hook under the G string, make sure your fingers on your left hand are not touching anything, and then just pull. You hook and then you pull, and just pull. You're gonna repeat that multiple times. That's the first note that I always have my students learn, which is called sol or G. The next note that we are going to find is going to be re. That's one of the most common ones. Another one you could go is for la, because that's straight up in strings, but we're gonna start with re. The re is played with your middle finger. What you're going to do, you're gonna find this dot, making sure that your instrument is tuned. you have to use your ear to find the tuning that matches the D string. And again, making sure that all your strings are tuned. So in this case, the position is not right on the dot. The dots don't actually tell you where the note is. The dots are meant to be used as a point of reference. So if you look at the dot right here, if I put my finger on the dot, it's actually very flat. So I kind of look for the intonation right there. So I find that intonation. So now you have found your D right here, and your D on the bass is going to be open. One of the rules of playing the guitarron, which I explained on the other video, is that the two inner treble or nylon strings, you always play with your index finger. String number 1 is always played with your middle finger. Metal strings are always played with your thumb. Now to play the D, you make sure that you find that note, and it's with your middle finger. Your position should be about like this, or if you can tell from this angle, your position is not flat. Your position, you are not playing with this part, you are playing with the tip of your finger. So you find that note, and you hook underneath on the D string, you hook with your index finger, and you point it down. You make sure to find your intonation, and then you pluck. It should be a very nice blended sound. If you overshoot it, you'll get something like this. You'll get that dissonance, or if it's flat, you'll hear that. So you are going to be able to tell when it's out of tune. I highly recommend that you get a tuning app so you can see your intonation as you're playing. So now again, re. And just practice it over and over. Then the next pattern to learn would be sol, re, sol, re. And you can tell that I don't need to take my fingers off when changing notes. So it's sol, re, sol. I can do that, but it's wasted time. Since I'm not using the G string when I'm playing the re, I can actually just let it vibrate. La is just open strings, open A and open A, string number 1 and string number 6. And you practice that as well. Making sure always point your finger slightly down so you get a nice relaxed sound. Again, reminder, don't plug this way. You can hear that it's a very buffalo sound, very hollow. It's just puff, puff. Whereas if you pluck it properly, you get a nice, crisper, boomier sound, which is what we're going for with the guitarron. The next exercise to learn would be sol, 2, 3, re, 2, 3, sol, 2, 3, re, 2, 3, la, 2, 3, re, 2, 3. Now when we play the la, you can't leave your fingers on for the re because then you're muting the string. So you have to make sure that you're playing then back to sol, re, sol, re. And from there, you would practice with a metronome. So far, we have learned sol, re, and la. The next note that we're going to learn is going to be C, which we're going to be using the position of the re as a kind of like a pivot point or a point of reference for being able to play C, which is going to be played on the open A strings. So you need to remember la, si bemol, si. Another tip that you can use to figure out your notes if someone hasn't quite taught them to you yet is that you will always be playing a treble note and a bass note. You can always look for the name of the note that you're trying to play on an open string. If you have it, then that will be played open. If you don't have it, then you are going to need to be pressing something such as in the note of F or Fa, in the note of B, Si bemol. There's a couple of notes that don't have open strings for it. The rest of them, if you have an open string for it, you will be using that to play. Now, to play C, you look for that position of the D, and you are pretty much going to pivot your finger, find the intonation, to press down the A string, making sure that it's in tune. That was perfect, perfect tuning. And then you're going to, with your thumb, press at about the same height as where you have your fingers, your middle finger, so it aligns. The B you played with middle finger and thumb. So we have learned, as a quick review, sol, re, la, and now si. With those 4 notes, you can do a very simple ranchera pattern. And you can actually find that pattern in the video of playing rancheras en 3/4. It has the patterns in every major key for the simplified bass, intermediate bass, and a more advanced bass line. It's a very basic ranchera exercise that you can do with those 4 notes.